Hi Stampers, it's Linda Schmidt with Stampin' with the Hounds. Today I have another fun fold card that is called the Spanner Panel 3-layer card. So when you look at it, it just looks like a normal card, but then you lift it, the first layer up, and it reveals the second layer, and then you lift the center panel up, and it reveals your back panel, so your third layer. So 1, 2, 3. Super easy, and there are so many different ways that you can do this card, whether you mix up if what your pieces are, if they're either the designer series paper or cardstock. So on this one I had kept my focal point being the designer series paper, and so that is what I did on that center panel, and then the other strips on the sides were cardstock. So that's just one idea, and then I'm just using a window sheet for that spanner panel. And that, if you don't have window sheets, you can definitely just use cardstock. But I kind of like having that floating panel look to it. So that's one idea that I did. Another one I used was with the Inspired Thoughts bundle, which is this nice tree that goes all the way across the card. And I cut out 2 of them just to give it a little bit of weight to it, and I glued them together. And again, there's that window sheet kind of holding it together. And then on this one I did the designer series paper as my strips, and then also in the center, and then I just did just a 1/4 sheet of cardstock for my back panel. So very important when you're doing this, make sure that whatever you stamp in here, it's covered up, so that when you're going through the panels, you don't see the images hanging out or anything. So there's another idea. This is another tree one. Here I actually doubled up on my layers, so I've got cardstock and then designer series paper on it. And then same thing here, I doubled up my layers. So a little bit more layering, but I was using up some strips of paper that I had left over. So that's another one. This was one of the first ones I did, and this one, I really liked it. So here on the strips, I continued the strips throughout. So instead of just doing 4 of them, I did the 6, because I put some more on the back here, so that my center panel, this was just a little, what is this? 2 3/4 by 4 for that little inside piece. So that's another way. And again, here I kept my strip clear because I wanted my saying to kind of show through. So that's another way of doing it. And then here's another one where I did kind of the double layered with the card, and this is all just cardstock that I had sponged. And then I had some leftover of this, oh, what is this stuff called? It's like a window sheet, but it's really, really thick. My mind's drawing a blank on it, but anyway, it's in the catalog now, but it's more colored. This was just some clear one that I had left over, so that I thought kind of worked well with the polar bears. And then there's my little scenery on that one. And then the one I made this morning, using up some glitter paper and rainbow glimmer and some ombre paper, super fun and sparkly on this one. So on my panel, or on the spanner part, I just did my coral, and what I did is I double layered it because I didn't want that back side with the glue showing, so I just put another piece of coral die cut. So there's the front, so there's the 1 layer, and then again here's that rainbow glimmer paper, the ombre paper, and then the back panel is got the greeting, and then I just did an image here instead. So I thought I still have space up here if I wanted to write something, or I can also use the back of the card as well. So those are just some of the fun possibilities that you can do with this technique. And so I'm going to do a version of this one today using the Love of Leaves stamp set, and then the Beauty of Earth designer series paper. So what you need for this, and again, it's going to vary depending on if you're doing cardstock or designer series paper for your panels and your center part. So on this one, I'm going to have my card base, which is just a 1/2 sheet of cardstock, nothing, just folded in half. I've got a quarter sheet of cardstock, so this is 4 by 5 1/4, and this is just going to go on my back side of it. And then I have for my panels, so instead of doing cardstock, I am doing designer series paper. So this has 4 pieces, and they are cut at 1 inch by 4 inches. So you need 4 of those. And then for my inside panel pieces, I am doing designer series paper. So this is 2 3/4 by 4, and you need 2 of those. And again, I'm just kind of doing one with this background, and then when I open it up, I'll do another one for that inside. So 2 pieces, they can be the same or they can be different, but those are going to be 2 3/4 by 4. And then you just need pieces of whatever you want your focal point to be. It can be flowers, it can be stamps, you can, whatever you want to do. And then whatever you want for your sentiment strip. So these I already die cut and stamped out. This die is actually from the Harvest dies. It's just a nice long border or sentiment cutout. So that's what I've already cut out for there. And then my leaves that I die cut were from the Stitched Leaves die. And it is, I love this set. This one, so you've got the Stitched Leaves, and then it also does this center part, which basically embosses, or what I call die emboss, where it gives that little stitching. And then this one just cuts out the leaf. And then if you wanted to do like a window, then this would still have that Stitched Leaves border on it. So those are all my pieces. So we'll get started on how you make the panel card. So let's put some of this away. Okay, so on your half a sheet of cardstock, so like I said, this is the 5 1/2 by, what is this, 11, and this is cut in half, cut in half, and then you're going to take that half a sheet of cardstock and then fold it in half. So this is the width-wise, it's going to be 4 1/4. So when you're going to open it up, so you've got your score line already there, and you need to have that score line so that you know where to cut. And so we are going to basically make cuts going down that front of the card. So you're going to go at 1 1/4, and you're going to take your cutting blade, and on your cutting blade there is that little arrow. That arrow needs to stop at the score line, and you'll kind of feel it when you're running it down. So if you pull this down where that arrow comes, you're going to stop right on that score line. Okay, so that's cut at, so that, again, I went in at 1 1/4. Now on my paper cutter, if I go all the way over to the edge here, this is 1 inch. This edge here is 1 1/4. So same thing. Cut down to the score line. Okay, and that's all the cutting that you need to do. So now you have your little side flaps, and then you got your center panel. So I'm going to go ahead and put my quarter sheet of cardstock. And again, this doesn't have to be a quarter sheet, but this is what I'm using on mine on this card. So this is going to go on the back. And then I just remembered I did not cut my window sheet, so I do need to do that really quick. So your window sheet needs to be about 5 1/8 for your length, and then about 1 1/4. And this is just preference. I just found that the 1 1/4 was a good weight for width-wise. Okay, so that is my window sheet. And this gets kind of layered behind your panels. So I like to keep it on the back side. I don't know if you can kind of see that. So I'm keeping this kind of right on that back side of my cardstock. So I'm going to go ahead and put a little bit of adhesive in the center. And I prefer to have this piece not quite to the edge of my cardstock. I kind of bring it up a little bit. I'm just going to move this over so that I can kind of see. So I probably have about 1/2 inch, give or take. Okay, and then I can take some of these pattern strips, and that's going to then cover up that adhesive. So I'm just going to put, this is all on the back side of my card that I'm doing. Because like I said, I prefer to have that window sheet on the back side rather than on the front. You can do it on the front. It's just a personal preference for me. Okay, so now we have that spanner part. So then on the front of my card, I was going to do, this is my center panel. Or do I want, hold on here. Kind of looking. No, it's going to be too busy with that other pattern. So I'm going to put this on my center panel in the front part here. Okay. And then my other strips, again, these were 1 inch by 4 inch, and I cut 4 of them. These are going to go on the front of my card now. And like I said, the other ones, if you want to double mat this, just adjust your measurements accordingly just by going in 1/8 of an inch. Totally optional. I just found that since I've already got like the cardstock mat, I really didn't want to do another layer, but you can if you wanted to, just to give some more color. But I find that if you at least put the pattern paper on the front or the back, or if it's cardstock, it just gives this spanner part a little bit more durability, having that extra layer there. So there's our 1 layer, 2, and now this inside piece, and again, this is totally optional. You don't have to decorate this if you don't want to. I just think that it kind of finishes the card as you're opening and closing it when you're going through the pieces. So I'm going to do my other pattern paper on that. And then now I can make sure when I'm stamping that I keep whatever image, I keep it here in the center. So on my center, I was going to do the leaf, and I'm thinking I want to do, maybe I'll do that in the green. So I'm going to do Pear Pizzazz because I want it to be light because I'm going to stamp my greeting on top of it. So again, this is photopolymer stamp, so I want to have that foam mat underneath it just to give my stamp a little bit more cushion and get a better image. So again, I want to keep this in the center. And then I'm going to stamp on top, I think, maybe I'll do the Cajun Craze. That's a little bit darker than Cinnamon Cider. So I'm stamping my greeting, and this greeting is from The Love of Leaves. It's the Your Friendship is Something I Know I Can Count On. So this is the one that coordinates with that stitch leaf die. So this is going to go right in the center. So there's the bottom, there's our middle, and now to decorate the front of the card, I have already die cut my little images and I stamped on it. And I like to take and die cut my image out several times. And then what I do is I adhere these together to give it a little bit more depth and height and some dimension on there. And it's also like if you mess up, like I did here, I was a little crooked, it gives you multiple chances to stamp correctly straight. So I'm going to go ahead and adhere these, I think this is my good one, together. And this is another way of using up your scraps. I know I have, if you're a stamper, you have bins and bins of scraps. So this is just a good way to use up those little pieces. So I just have 3 layers glued together just to give me some dimension. And this is totally optional, but I just kind of, this is my new little thing I like doing on there. Okay. Then I want to do my leaf, and on this, I'm going to have it kind of poke in there, kind of like that. So I want to be careful that I only put adhesive on part of it, because you don't want to have this open and then you see that adhesive. So I'm just going to put adhesive kind of like right here. I'm just going to put a little bit on just for my placement. And then that looks good. You don't see it. I am going to put a little bit on here, and this will dry clear. I'm just going to kind of go this from the back side. Just a little bit. And then what I did on the inside of this is I put another leaf on it just to kind of cover it up. So on here, and this is optional. So if you didn't do that, then that's why you want to be careful with that adhesive. But since I'm doing this back one, it's going to cover up some of that adhesive. And then it just kind of finishes the inside of the card, I think. All right, so there's that. And then this will get glued down. So again, I'm going to use this multi-purpose glue, because this will dry clearer rather than if you use like a strip or mono adhesive, you would see that strip of adhesive. Where this one, it'll dry clear. You'll still see it, but it will be more of like a glassy glaze. Okay, and then I'm just putting some weight using my block just to kind of press it down, just to make sure it's all adhered. And then I'm going to add a little bit of a gem. I think I'll just do one of these little cinnamon cider ones. I'll just kind of put that right there. And there is the Spanner Panel 3-layer card. So you've got the 1, the 2, and the 3. So super fun. And like I said, there's so many different ways of doing it, whether you're changing up either the pattern paper or the cardstock, or you can do cardstock here and pattern paper. You can flip it up whatever you want. So just making sure that your center panel, that's always going to be that 2 3/4 by 4, and then these strips are going to be 1 by 4, and you need at least 4 of them, maybe 6 if you want to put the pattern paper down here too. That's another way of doing it. And then your 1/4 sheet of cardstock, or however you want to do that back panel, is decorated. So that is it for today. So thanks for joining me, and I would love to see you on August 27th during my virtual Fun Fold class. We'll be going through how to make this card. I'll have some more samples and stuff for that one. So anyway, check out my Stampin' with the VIP Hounds Facebook group page for that Zoom link. Otherwise, just put a message in the chat and I will send you the link. So thanks for watching.